Welcome back to your ACCA F8 training videos of the EXP group. The next video is dealing with ethics. For the moment, it is very important to know for you that ethics is at the heart of the ACCA examination syllabuses. So, featuring from a greater to or a lesser extent, over half of your papers in the ACCA will be, let's say, seasoned with ethics and topics related to ethics. It's not necessarily always in the exam as a separate question, but it's a key area for your studies. What you might have to know that the ACCA has adopted the professional ethics as outlined by the International Federation of the Accountants, and as such it must be learned. What other important thing is that ACCA has adopted a principle-based approach. So it means that whilst there are some specific recommendations in certain areas that must be learned, if you face a problem in real life, in a practical question, that is where you're not aware of any specific guidance, you must go back to the basics and apply the fundamental principles. In terms of the auditor, of a particular importance is the auditor's independence. Now, what are the fundamental principles of professional ethics as outlined in the Code of Ethics is a very important topic. You might want to learn these principles using the mnemonics topic itself. So it's about professional or technical competence and due care. This must be exercised by all members, and they have a responsibility to act with best practice and to keep themselves technically up to date. So they have to maintain their knowledge up to date. They must accept only engagements that are, let's say, according to their knowledge, engagements that can be delivered based on their knowledge. They shall not engage themselves in activities that cannot be delivered based on their knowledge. Objectivity must always be demonstrated by an auditor. They shall not allow personal interest or influence to come over their professional duties. Professional behavior is also one ethical principle that must be demonstrated at all times, so that auditors shall not act in such way that brings the profession into disrepute. Integrity requires that members are always honest and do not knowingly allow to be associated with dishonesty at any time. And confidentiality, this is obvious. Under normal circumstances, members shall not disclose any kind of information from the client side to get any kind of personal gains, obviously. There are some threats to ethical behavior. What we must remark here is that it's not enough for an auditor to be independent. In fact, he also must be seen to be independent in practice. So this is not just something that we have to prove, it's an image that we have to maintain. We must be perceived as auditors as being independent in life. There are 5 major threats to the auditor's independence, and that are self-interest, self-review, familiarity, intimidation, and advocacy. Self-interest is, for example, financial interest in a client company's shares. It means that issuing, for example, a favorable audit opinion will get also self-interest for the auditor itself, because it's, for example, the company's share price will go up. Self-review, when the auditor provides different services to an audit client besides audit, for example, accounting advice, it will lead to the review of the same services, same documents, same transactions that we provided advice on. That will be eventually reviewed still by us. Familiarity, this is like family relationship, acting as an auditor to a company where close relative is the CEO. It's relative relationships. Intimidation, continuing to act as an auditor in the situations when the company or the client has started legal proceedings against the audit firm, or simply it's just privately they are intimidating the auditor. And advocacy, acting on the client's behalf in negotiations to raise new finance for the company, for example, in negotiations with banks. Safeguards against these threats, they are created by a firm itself, by the accounting firm, by quality control procedures. Also, they are created by ACCA, by the profession. to complete the ethics module, to maintain their knowledge up to date, their CPD, the continuous professional development requirements, or they can be created by the members themselves that do show up or subscribe to CPD events. In the remaining part of the video, we are going to discuss our next chapter, the Auditor's Appointment. Now, note that if you are taking the international variant of paper F8, you are not required to have any specific knowledge of company law, but you can take as a best practice the UK variant, and this includes appointment of auditors, auditors' rights, the duties, the auditor's resignation, and removal of auditors. Now, in terms of appointment of the auditors, this is normally made by the members at the company's annual general meeting. It's usually a provision made for initial appointment to be made by directors who may also fill a casual vacancy. Under corporate governance provisions, approval of audit committee is required for the nomination of the auditor. If there are previous auditors existing or existed, professional clearance has to be obtained. The auditor has to find out why and in what circumstances did the previous auditor resign. And before accepting any nomination, the auditors have to consider a client acceptance procedure that relates to independence, potential conflict of interest, professional competence, i.e. just what we discussed in terms of fundamental principles of fundamental ethical principles. So there's no threats to their independence and objectivity in terms of the engagement. The auditor's rights, these are usually provided under the local law, and if not, they can be covered by the engagement matters and usually relate to matters as the auditor shall have access to all the company's books and records at any time, has to obtain or has the right to obtain all information and explanation considered necessary from the company's staff. They must receive a notice and can attend at all general meetings of the company that relates to financial statements and their own appointment. They have the right to resign and request the directors to convene the general management of the company where there are surrounding circumstances connected with the resignation, and to make representations to shareholders where there is an attempt to remove them from the office with which they do not agree. Auditors' duties can be quite varying. It's again depending on country to country, but we can see generally that they have the duty to report to the shareholders that the financial statements give a true and fair view, and that they have been properly prepared in accordance with the relevant legislation or accounting standards. This would be the basic duty of an auditor. To consider the implication for the audit report on financial statements of consistency of other financial information, i.e. the director's report or the annual report, published together with the financial statements. To review and report on the effectiveness of the company's internal control systems if the company is listed, and if this is a corporate governance requirement. To qualify the audit opinion where it's necessary. To provide a proper notice on the resignation, this is their duty. And to maintain their independence, again, throughout the engagement, not just at the beginning. The resignation, the auditor's resignation concerns issues related to the fact that they shall not just go out from the company. If they face an awkward situation, they should do it properly. It means that they must deposit a formal written notice at the company's registered office. They have to accompany these notice by a positive or negative statement as to whether, in their opinion, there are any circumstances requiring communications to the members of the board or loan creditors of the company. And if so, the auditors might request the directors to convene a general meeting so that members may have the opportunity to ask further questions relating to the circumstances in which they are actually resigning. The auditor's removal is, again, a delicate situation. A special notice must be given of the resolution proposing a change in the auditors. Auditors must be notified of this resolution, and if they wish to contest, they have the right, at the company's expense, to pre-circularize their representations to the members of the board. At the meeting, they may again put forward their position before any vote takes place, and the removal will require an ordinary resolution, a simple majority of the members of the board. let's see now, in the next video we are going to deal with letters issued by the auditor.